the National Broadcasting Company. Now in its 7th decade of bringing you baseball's memories. Baseball's milestones. Baseball's magical moments. And baseball's miracles. NBC Sports proudly presents the Major League Baseball Game of the Week.
It's the type of day that makes one wish they could take the roof off the Metrodome. It can't be done, so we're inside as the Minnesota Twins host the Toronto Blue Jays. Hi, everyone. Ted Robinson and Bobby Murcer with you in Minneapolis. Neither of these clubs is where they thought they'd be in the standings in mid-May. And, Bobby, the Jays particularly disappointing. A loss last night, dropping them 10 games under 500.
And it's been the bullpen. It really has failed the Blue Jays this year. 1988 was a strong season for the bullpen. Tom Hankey, Dwayne Ward. But this year they've lost 12 one-run games, and it's been the bullpen's fault. They have been unable to hold the lead for the Blue Jays. And, of course, the Blue Jays being 10 games under 500, they're only 6 games out in the American League Eastern Division, which could be a plus at this early stage.
Whereas Minnesota, which is just 4 games under after winning 3 straight, is 8 games behind Oakland. But to check in on the state of the Twins, Bobby had a chance to speak with manager Tom Kelly.
Well, the Twins have won 3 in a row now, Tom, and last night's come-from-behind win. Was that a big win for you?
Well, you know, Bobby, anytime you can come back and win a ball game, it's very important for the ball club. It's morale, it's momentum, and again, to rally back after 4-0 and come back and win it was a great win, especially at home.
Well, now, you've had your problems in the past. Okay, the Twins are not playing up to par. You've had several meetings that we've been reading about in the paper. What do you say in those meetings to your players?
Well, we've had different kinds of meetings. As you know, as a player going back, we had meetings, let's go, let's be ready to play the first inning, play all 9 innings. We're only as good as we practice and all that stuff. And then we got a little deeper, and I had some individual meetings with people just trying to find out how they can swing so good one game and then the next game not swing so good. So, again, you have to really go through it to try to understand where you're coming from and the manager's coming from during the course of a meeting, and you have to pretty much be there to try to understand the ball club. But again, you try to go on and just get as much as you can out of the players and encourage them and pat them on the back when things aren't going so well.
Thank you, Tom, for being with us. We'll be back with the lineups right after these messages.
When it comes to roominess, the 1989 Toyota Camry will make you sit down and take notice. It's spacious and comfortable. Best of all, the Camry gives you Toyota quality and room with a great view.
My Toyota, I love it. It's that eye-catching, head-turning, double-taking, no mistaking, gleaming, beaming, unbelieving, turtle wax shine. That neck craning, shine sustaining, heart jump finish, undiminished, traffic stopping, eye popping, turtle wax shine. Check it out, ain't no doubt, this is what it's all about. Turtle wax shine. Turtle wax.
Die Hard, America's most trusted replacement battery. The one over 65 million have stepped up to. Now Sears introduces the most powerful Die Hard battery ever. New Die Hard, more power when you need it most.
I didn't know who to trust, especially with a foreign car.
Midas has the right muffler for almost every foreign car and guarantees them for as long as you own that car. No appointment needed.
So I went to number 1.
Nobody beats Midas. Nobody.
Get up and go before she sings.
The preceding message was furnished by Major League Baseball. The Game of the Week is brought to you by your Toyota dealer. Whatever car or truck you choose, you'll love the quality. Who could ask for anything more? By Turtle Wax, for that eye-catching, head-turning, double-taking, no-mistaking Turtle Wax shine. By Budweiser, Beechwood aged for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. And by Die Hard, America's most trusted replacement battery. Die Hard, with more power when you need it most. And now, here's today's Die Hard starting lineup.
And Shane Raleigh of the Minnesota Twins will face this Blue Jay lineup. Rookie Junior Felix, in just his second week in the major leagues, leads off in right field. Kelly Gruber will be at third base, batting second. Tony Fernandez at shortstop, bats third. George Bell has a sore throwing arm, so he will be the designated hitter today in the cleanup spot. Fred McGriff at first base will bat fifth. Pat Borders behind the plate is the sixth man. Lloyd Mosby in center field will bat seventh. Nelson Liriano at second base will bat eighth. And Rob Ducey will play left field today and bat ninth.
Shane Raleigh with a record of 2-4, 4.54 earned run average. That's pretty high ERA. A left-hander pitching here at the Metrodome. And Raleigh had an outstanding outing his last time out as he beat the Boston Red Sox up at Fenway. So Raleigh breaking a personal 3-game losing streak with that win. Take a look at the defense. It will be behind Shane Raleigh this afternoon. In left field, Moses, John Moses. Kirby Puckett in center field. Randy Bush gets the start at right field this afternoon against the right-hander Dave Steve. Ken Herbeck at first base. Al Newman, the super sub for the Minnesota Twins, will play second base. Greg Gagne at shortstop. Gary Gaetti at third, and the battery of Tim Laudner and Shane Raleigh.
Well, it's an utterly gorgeous day. In fact, yesterday and today, the first 2 days of the season in the Twin Cities, where the weather has been warmer outside than inside. It's in the mid-70s outside. It'll be 70 degrees in the air-conditioned Metrodome this afternoon, and it's the opener of the fishing season here in Minnesota, which is a ritual that takes back seats to nothing during the season.
Started at midnight last night. Did you have your hook in the water?
Oh, Ken Herbeck may have.
Really?
Not me. And here's a young man who's made a pretty big splash in just 2 weeks in the major leagues. Junior Felix, a switch hitter to start against Shane Raleigh. Dale Ford is our home plate umpire. And the game begins with a swinging strike.
Raleigh really relies on his control. He's got 4 pitches: fastball, curveball, slider, and changeup. But he doesn't throw hard, so he has to rely on hitting the corners inside and outside, changing speeds off of each one of those pitches. And pitching here at the Metrodome, or the Homer Dome, ever how you want to call it, you've really got to be on when you don't throw the ball hard.
1-2 now to the switch hitting Felix, who hit a home run last week in the very first pitch he saw in the major leagues from Kirk McCaskill of California.
Well, we had a rough night last night in the outfield. He lost a couple of balls that really hurt the Blue Jays. It's a difficult situation when you're an outfielder, especially a visiting outfielder. You cannot take your eye off the ball 1 minute.
2-2. He slaps that to center field. Puckett there, and there's one quick out. This, as Bobby alluded to, has been called the Homer Dome, and with the warm weather finally coming, the ball last night was really jumping. The first time this year the ball's been carrying well.
You know, when I walked out on the field last night, it seemed to be so warm. I mean, it was really hot. I was sweating, and you normally don't do that here in the Metrodome.
Kelly Gruber, the batter, chops one to Greg Gagne. Cross to Herbeck, and Gruber now, despite the high batting average, is hitless in his last 13 at-bats.
One thing about Shane Raleigh, he doesn't throw hard, and you pretty much, as a batter, see the ball well from Shane Raleigh. But if he's on, after the game is over with, you've got a nice, comfortable 0 for 4. You wonder to yourself, what in the world happened to you?
Now Tony Fernandez. And you'll see him wearing an unusual batting helmet, although it won't come into play as much against the left-hander Raleigh as it would if he bats left-handed later in the game. Fernandez coming back from an early season beating from a good friend of his, Cecilio Guante. And Fernandez hit, and there is the flap you see. It's covering the right cheek, which is where he was hit by the pitch.
Well, one of the things that you worry about from a hitter standpoint, once a guy has been hit in the face, how will he adjust when he comes back after the injury? Will he be able to stand in there without having that fright of the ball coming inside once again? Of course, you can't be afraid when you are a hitter. If you're afraid of the baseball, then you might as well pack it in and go home.
And his first at bat after being disabled, got a base hit. Drills that to left center field. Nobody's going to catch up to that one. And it hits off the fence in deep left center. Puckett plays it back, and Fernandez has a stand-up double.
One of the things about the Blue Jays, they go when Tony Fernandez goes. And they really missed him throughout that stretch when he was on the disabled list. He is an outstanding shortstop and a hitter. Excellent swing right here. Head right on the ball as he watches the ball meet the bat. Kirby Puckett, of course, plays the ball well off the center field wall. Anybody else, it may have been a triple for Tony Fernandez. As far as Kirby Puckett, is an outstanding outfielder and really knows how to play this outfield here in the Metrodome.
George Bell bats now with a runner at second and one out, or in 2 outs, and Raleigh starts with ball 1. Bell had a home run here last night, just his 3rd of the season. He had a career high 47 homers 2 years ago, then a career low 24 last year. And off to a slow start in the home run department this year. He rips that to left center for a hit. Fernandez being waved home, and Moses will not even throw, and the Blue Jays take a 1-0 lead. So with 2 outs, a double by Fernandez and a single by Bell, and Toronto leads 1-0.
George Bell, they really need to get George Bell back in form again, along with Lloyd Mosby. Mosby in the outfield. You can see that little weight shift that Bell has right before Raleigh releases the ball. He's a dead low fastball hitter. Last night's home run was a low fastball.
Now Fred McGriff, the batter. And a guy who kind of shoots the lefty versus lefty theories out the window. And McGriff grounds one, but they were shifting him that way, and Newman throws him out. McGriff, having a great year hitting against left-handed pitchers, is retired by Raleigh. But the Blue Jays score on Bell's RBI single in the first. Lineup has Al Newman at second base, replacing the injured Wally Backman. He's on the disabled list. John Moses in left field. Dan Gladden gets a day off. Kirby Puckett batting third. Kent Herbeck fourth, and Gary Gaetti fifth. That's routine. Randy Bush in right field will bat sixth. Gene Larkin, the DH, is seventh. Tim Laudner catching bats eighth, and Greg Gagne, the shortstop, will bat ninth.
And the 31-year-old right-hander, Dave Steve, he has really turned his career around. You can see he has no losses here in 1989. 3-0 record, 4.09 earned run average. He has put the slider back into his pitching repertoire, and he is really using it effectively.
And the leadoff man for Minnesota is switch hitting Al Newman, the second baseman. Is a breaking ball for ball one. Wally Backman, the Twins' new second baseman this year, injured his shoulder 2 weeks ago and was placed on the disabled list retroactive to last Monday. He'll be out at least 15 days. So Newman, who filled in for Gary Gaetti at third base the last 6 weeks of last year, becomes an important man to the Twins again. And that misses, and so now a 3-0 count to Newman.
Dave Steve, before, well, about midway of 1988, he really turned himself around. He got rid of the slider, which was his most effective pitch. As he walks Newman there, he went to the curveball, and he started using his fastball and curveball, and got rid of the slider. Take a look at the defense. Ducey in left field, Mosby in center, Felix Jr. Felix in right again this afternoon. Fred McGriff at first base, Liriano at second, Fernandez the shortstop, Gruber the third baseman, and the battery of Pat Borders and Dave Stieb. They say that Stieb felt like that he needed to get rid of the slider if he was going to have any longevity in baseball. It was hurting his arm. Well, it wasn't only hurting his arm, it was hurting his career because his pitching ability started to fall.
It could be said that 20 wins used to be the benchmark of excellence in pitching, Bobby, but as 20-game winners get scarce, Stieb could be the best pitcher around and never win 20. In fact, his career high in wins is 17.
He's also matured a lot too. He used to let a lot of things, a lot of little things, bother him on the mound, and it affected his pitching. I mean, a little error in the outfield, or a little miscue, a missed double play.
Now you'll see a lot of this. The Blue Jays have had a hard time keeping runners from stealing this year. So the pitchers have been throwing a lot to first, and Pat Borders a lot of snap throws after the pitch.
It'll be up to Dave Stieb to keep those runners close. If Borders has any chance at all to throw anybody out at second. Stieb doesn't have that great a move to first base, but if he is persistent and consistent over there, he will keep the runner alive. That's what you want to do. You don't want that runner to get that big lead and that big jump on your catcher.
There's the first strike he's thrown. 1-1 to Moses, and that number you saw a moment ago on Stieb is an astonishing difference in his pitching this year. Just 122 against him by right-handed batters. That means the slider's back.
You bet it's back. Mickey Mantle said that when he retired because he couldn't hit the slider. And the slider is probably, if you've got a good hard breaking slider like Dave Stieb does, it sure makes a lot of problems from the right side.
Moses chopping one foul, and it's a ball and 2 strikes.
Another thing that Dave Stieb has also done this year and towards the latter part of last year is that he's gotten more control of his pitches. He's not afraid to throw that breaking ball, the slider or the curveball now, on any count, whether it be 3-0, 3-1, 2-0. He's got a lot of confidence in all of his pitches.
Newman getting a decent lead, but he watches, and it's ball 2. If you were to characterize any pitch in the American League in the last couple of years that's come into vogue, it's been the changeup. And these Blue Jays say that Stieb has developed a very good changeup, especially this year. There's a close play. And Newman just gets back.
And that's what Dave Stieb has to do. He got Newman. Newman was leaning, he was leaning there just a little bit. He was going. And Stieb chases him back at first base. Very important for that pitcher to keep that runner close at first, just to give your catcher an opportunity to throw him out at second. When you're having problems throwing people out, you know the opposing team's going to test you until you get it straight.
And the Blue Jays know the Twins have played more aggressive baseball in the last week, and it's the type of game that Tom Kelly likes to employ. It's a change from the old Twins days of sitting back and waiting for the big hitters to hit it out of the park. They still have that, but they now like to run, hit and run. And there goes Newman. Moses strikes out, and the high throw to center field. Newman to third. So the Blue Jays continue to be haunted by an inability to throw on opposing base runners. Borders has a chance here if he makes a good throw.
One of the toughest things, that's a breaking ball down low at its side, and when Borders came up, he was a little bit underneath the ball as far as his arm position was concerned, and he was throwing the ball as he was coming up, and that's what caused him to throw the ball over the head of Fernandez. You can see Newman with his head down, sliding all the way, and then picks the ball up in center field. Good job by Newman. A lot of times that runner, when he's got his head down like that, he won't pick the ball up. He'll just stop at second.
So Kirby Puckett will bat now with a runner at third base and 1 out. The Blue Jays leading 1-0 in the bottom of the first inning. And Puckett pops it up short center. Newman is tagging and they let the ball drop. Mosby didn't see it. Puckett goes all the way to second. Newman scores to tie the game.
Well, you may see that a lot this afternoon. It's been happening a lot this year at the Metrodome. Mosby did not see the ball at all. What a helpless feeling it is for your outfielders. He's looking for help. And Junior Felix is looking around. Nobody saw it.
Strange thing about that, Bobby, is that usually is not as big a problem here in day games as it is in night games. Yet Mosby apparently never saw that ball. And there have been a long litany of fielders in this ballpark already this year that have had that problem, mostly due to new lighting, not due to the roof, but new lights.
Mosby's probably wondering what in the world is going to happen next. He's not hitting, and now he loses a ball in the roof here. Jimmy Williams, the skipper. Toronto's had a rough 2 or 3 weeks.
Well, you see Steve taking a lot of time to compose himself after that play. See, he's still not ready to pitch.
But he understands that here at the Metrodome. He knows that these things are going to happen, and it hurt the Blue Jays last night. And Junior Felix lost 2 in right field.
And Herbeck hits that ball to deep left center field. A long run for Mosby, and he runs it down. Puckett was playing halfway, so does not tag, as Herbeck, normally a pull hitter, and Mosby playing him that way gives that a long ride to left center.
Well, the outfielders cannot take their eye off the ball once it goes up in the air. And you can see Mosby's got his eye on the ball all the way, and he almost overran that one, but he corralled it somehow. It's a scary feeling from the outfielder's standpoint, knowing that you may lose the ball if you take your eye off of it. Sure keeps you on your toes, but from the hitter's standpoint, when the ball goes up in the air, you don't stop at first base even though you didn't hit it that well. You just keep running.
Harry Gaetti now the batter with 2 outs. Puckett at second. Last night, Junior Felix, in his first game ever in a domed stadium, lost 2 balls in the 3rd inning, and the Twins put a big target on him. They started hitting the ball intentionally to right field to test Felix, and that is a helpless feeling.
Yeah, no kidding. And from the outfielder's standpoint, you're out there saying, boy, I hope they don't hit me the ball. Next thing you know, they found you.
Good hard slider away, and it's 1-1 to Gaetti. The outfielders see, of course, a translucent roof, so it's not hard to pick the ball up in the daytime, but those lights have changed this year. They're at a different angle, a bit more glare, and every opposing club that has come into Minneapolis this year has had trouble adjusting to it.
Those lights are much brighter than they were in 1988. We understand that the reason that they changed the lights and the light stand is to take a little bit of the pressure or the weight off of this translucent roof here.
And Gaetti tomahawks one to left field. Rob Ducey underneath, and the inning is over, but the bloop double by Puckett produces a run, and after 1, we are tied at 1.
Hit the road, Jack.
Sometimes that little hole blends in with the baseball. You can see them, they're all over the place.
Pat Porter's the leadoff man here in the 2nd for the Jays, and the count is 2 balls and no strikes.
I had an opportunity to play here, Ted, with this roof in the outfield. It was a good time to DH. It really was.
And Borders pops it up short left center, and this is John Moses playing it, and there's 1 away. When they come to the ballpark and the skipper says to you, what would you like to do today, Bob? He said, I'd like to play bat.
Right.
Now, the reason the roof is the way it is, for those that are not familiar with the Metrodome, this is the only air-supported dome stadium in Major League Baseball. It's built along the same lines as the Pontiac Silverdome. And therefore, the translucent roof, which again normally is more of a bother night games than it is in day games. Lloyd Mosby taking strike one, and it's a tough time for Mosby to have problems in the field because he has certainly been struggling at the plate. Mosby is 0 for his last 24.
He still has the ability to hit. It's more of a mental game now. You wonder from a hitter standpoint, or you say, well, why can't a guy with the professional ability of Lloyd Mosby get himself out of that problem? Why does he have to go through what he's going through now? Well, if anybody had the answer on how to get out of a slump quickly, you'd be a multi-millionaire, and I wished I had the answer. There's really no answer. It really becomes more of a mental part of the game than hitting and the mechanics of it.
Chops the 2-strike pitch to shortstop. Gagne throws out Mosby, and they're 2 down.
You can see right there, Mosby, all he was doing, he was just feeling for the ball. He was already, his weight was way out in front. He had no chance to drive the ball at all.
With 2 outs, nobody on here in the second, and Nelson Liriano will be the batter. One of 4 switch hitters on the Blue Jays team, and he has played a lot of second base since Manny Lee went down with a hamstring injury. Lee is about ready to come back off the disabled list. 1 ball the count to Liriano. He was the opening day second baseman for the Jays last year, but wound up losing that job to Manny Lee. One of so many Blue Jays players from Latin America and their great scout Epi Guerrero. It's a continuing stream of talent.
And the strength of a ball club is your bench, really.
Chopper to Gagne, throwing on the run, and the inning is over. So Shane Raleigh gets the Blue Jays in order in the second, and in the middle of the second we stayed tied at 1. Tomorrow he'll likely be watching the Tour de Trump on NBC Sports. The exciting conclusion tomorrow at 3 Eastern, a 10-day championship cycling race through the great scenic Northeast, and you'll see it tomorrow on NBC. This is the first game of your Saturday baseball doubleheader. Ted Robinson and Bobby Murcer with you in Minneapolis, and Randy Bush leading off the bottom of the second inning in a 1-1 ball game. Bush has struggled through the early parts of the year until the last week. He's hit in his last 7 games, raised his average about 70 points. Twins made a very, could use the word I think in this instance, Bobby, controversial trade early last season, trading Tom Brunansky to St. Louis for Tommy Hurd. The reason they felt they could make the trade was that Bush could fill the left-handed complement in right field. And last year he did a very good job producing runs in his part-time role.
Well, it's a big plus for a guy like Randy Bush to be able to come off the bench and platoon. They've got Carmen Castillo from the right side they play out in the outfield. Of course, that's been a big void for the Minnesota Twins now with right field. Of course, they've had a lot of problems with second base. They've got that shored up with Wally Backman. But it's a difficult situation. You have to work a little bit harder when you are a platoon player just to keep yourself on track and in shape.
Well, it's been a tough year for Jimmy Williams. He watches a leadoff walk for the 2nd straight inning, and Gene Larkin, the batter. Switch hitter batting left-handed here. These are 2 very good offensive clubs that are both not scoring runs at the rate they should. This year, Minnesota's had a little trouble at the bottom of their order. The 6 through 9 spots have not produced offensively for them the way they did last year.
One of the things that Dave Steve has not been doing this year is walking many people, but he's walked the first man in the first inning, came around to score, and how many times does that happen to you? And he started off walking the first man here in the second inning. So Steve right now is not got his control down like he would want. He's falling behind these hitters and unable to come back and get them.
1-1 the count now to Larkin. Maybe the most amazing accomplishment by the Toronto team this year, Bobby, and there are some negatives we pointed out. The positive, their pitching staff has allowed just 12 home runs in 36 games. And in the American League with the DH and the smaller parks, that is an amazing number.
And especially in their own ballpark, Exhibition Stadium. It's a good home run hitter's ballpark. They've got some outstanding starters over there. Jimmy Key and Flanagan, Dave Steve. It's been their middle relief, and their bullpen has really failed them so far.
There goes Bush on a pitch out, and he'll stop halfway. Trying to get back, and he's thrown out. Borders to Fernandez to McGriff. So the Jays with all the attention paid to the runners, and it pays off here as they pitch out and catch Bush.
And Tom Kelly continuing to challenge the arm of Borders. That may have been a hit and run, and with the pitch out, no way Larkin could put the wood on it.
So the runner erased. It's 1 away and a 2-1 count on the batter Larkin. Breaking ball missing, and it's 3-1.
Right here very early, you can see the Blue Jays paying special attention now to those runners when they get on at first base and at second base.
And the fastball's hammered inside the bag and down to the right field corner. Played quickly by Felix. Larkin into second with a double. Not much room there between the bag and McGriff, but Larkin found it for the two-base hit. So we check scores elsewhere. At Wrigley Field, no score in the bottom of the second. At Shea Stadium, no score in the bottom of the first. And the Giants scoring 3 runs in the first inning in Montreal, while rain slows the game up in Cleveland, and that's been a familiar refrain there this year. Rick Russell won his 200th game last night for the Giants.
Big Daddy. I played with him when we were on the same team, the Chicago Cubs, back in the late 70s. An amazing athlete, too, to be as big as he is.
He's been counted out several times. Still going strong for Roger Craig. Tim Lautner at the plate with Larkin at second base, and the pitch out that nailed Bush looming large for the Jays in the inning, as the runner was erased before Larkin's double.
Another pickoff attempt for the Blue Jays. But when you're not scoring runs, Tom Kelly knows that, you're going to have to play a different ball game. When you're out in front, you can play a more of a ball game, such as running and hitting and running and sacrificing your players and your runners.
1-1 the count to Lautner.
Kelly was mentioning that when they do take the lead, that it's a lot easier to manage because he can do many more things. He is a ball player's manager all the way. Very quiet. Doesn't say much.
And it sounded like a broken bat out to right field. Junior Felix with the catch. And there are 2 down. So Steve gets the right-hander Lautner, and now will face the right-handed batting Craig Yackey, the shortstop. Steve threw a one-hitter early this year against the Yankees. Jamie Quirk the only hit. He ended last year, in the opinions, I think it was Frank Robinson who said it, the Baltimore manager, said Steve should have been Johnny Vandermeer. He ended the season with consecutive one-hitters. In Cleveland, Julio Franco hit a bad hop ground ball to second base with 2 outs in the 9th for a hit. His next start in Baltimore, Jim Traber, a fisted shot over first base for a single with 2 outs in the 9th.
Well, of course, Steve doesn't have a chance for a no-hitter here, but in case he did have, tell you what, Shane Raleigh, Lariano has broken up for the Blue Jays. He's already broken up 2 no-hitters in 1989, the second baseman.
Hey, coach, here. That's a ball to Gagne, 1-1. Lariano getting Kirk McCaskill in the ninth, and Nolan Ryan.
Langston the other day from Seattle had a no-hitter going into the 9th inning at Exhibition Stadium against the Blue Jays. They came back and won that ball game.
That was the most unlikely scene as Tom Lawless broke up that no-hitter. Blew the fastball by Gagne, and it's 1-2.
Well, speaking of Mark Langston from Seattle, I feel sure that he will be traded before this season's over with. There's a lot of trades surrounding, of course, Mark Langston. He's a free agent at the end of this year, but he will end up someplace. Now where, I don't know.
Lou Gorman, the Red Sox general manager, who's been talking feverishly with Seattle for weeks now, said this week he feels Langston will be moved in the next week or 2.
The strongest rumor was surrounding the New York Mets making a big trade with the Mariners involving Langston.
Al Newman waiting for a chance. Gagne chops it to Gruber, and he will tag the runner Larkin, cutting in front to end the inning. So we have finished 2 at the Metrodome. We're tied at 1, and we'll be right back after these messages from your local station.
To you by Mitsubishi Motors, who invites you to come see the full line of cars and trucks. By MasterCard. Master the moment with MasterCard, the official card of Major League Baseball. And by Rain Dance Car Wax, the longest lasting protection you can buy.
Back at the Metrodome in Minneapolis, Ted Robinson, Bobby Murcer with you as we go to the 3rd inning. Toronto and Minnesota tied at 1. And on the first pitch of the top of the 3rd, Rob Ducey, the batter. The left-hander faces Shane Raleigh.
Rob Ducey, one of the youngsters that they're hoping that can fill the bill in the outfield, the only Canadian-born player on the Toronto Blue Jays ball club.
So the left-hander in the lineup because George Bell had to DH today, and Ducey gets a hit. Now Junior Felix chopping one foul.
Of course, the Blue Jays playing with 2 youngsters in the outfield. On the corners, Ducey in left field and Junior Felix in right field. They both got speed. They've got good arms, but they're young and they're learning. Last year, of course, they had all the problems in the world the Toronto Blue Jays did when they tried to move Bell to the DH slot.
Hard hit ball. Gaetti still has a chance to turn 2. No. Boy, look at that slide. Newman held on to the ball long enough, says John Hirschbeck, after being taken out with a great slide from Rob Ducey.
Well, this is what you call breaking up a double play. And just because Gaetti bobbled the ball, you can see the speed of Ducey. He's right on top of Al Newman, and boy, does he take a flip. He was mad because he couldn't get out of the way of Ducey coming in hard.
Is this clean, Bobby? As he comes up there, is that clean? He's short of the bag.
Looks clean to me. Did the job. The umpires didn't say anything.
Stayed in the baseline.
They don't like for you to go out of the baseline to talk about that rolling block down at second base to take out the double play from the runner. A lot of players don't know how to slide all the way down. They get so used to doing that stand-up slide that they do it on a double play, a steal. It doesn't make any difference. What caused Al Newman to take a flip was the fact that Gaetti bobbled the ball and didn't get him the ball fast enough. And it should have been Newman knowing that. Just take the one and make sure of it. Get out of the way.
Now Raleigh paying attention to Felix with Kelly Gruber at the plate. We'll watch Ducey again from center field. He's short of the bag as he comes up. Now Felix running on the pitch, and he is out. Lautner skips the throw in on one bounce, but Al Newman applies the tag, and Felix is caught stealing.
Testing the arm of the catcher, and Felix with good speed, that head down, and Newman right there to put the tag on him. That throw, if it's off just a little bit to the right, Felix has the stolen base, but it is right on the money.
Kelly Gruber bats with a 1-strike count, and he lofts one to center field where Puckett has a line on it. And so the Jays get 2 runners in the inning, but quickly go down with nothing damaging happening. And in the middle of the 3rd in Minneapolis, it's Toronto 1, Minnesota 1.
When the writers of Motor Trend took the Mitsubishi Galant out for testing, it was an intriguing new import. When they brought it back, it was Motor Trend Import Car of the Year.
Each morning, Li Chen sets out for one of the most important jobs in China. The care of the Chinese National Airlines' new Boeing 757s. And he uses Craftsman tools, which isn't surprising. Craftsman are tough precision tools, and the hand tools are guaranteed forever. So naturally, a lot of people buy them because they know they can always return them. And some buy them because they know they can't.
I'd like to make a simple point about a new gasoline additive called ProCare. You see, without proper care, even new car engines accumulate deposits that can lead to a rough-running engine. Fortunately, there's ProCare. Added to a single tank full of gasoline, ProCare's patented Techron chemistry begins cleaning deposits not only from fuel injectors, but throughout your engine's intake system for a noticeably smoother performance.
New ProCare for a smoother running engine.
To prove how long Rain Dance car wax lasts, just add water. Rain Dance, the longest lasting protection you can buy.
This year, Germany's prestigious Golden Steering Wheel Award went to the Mitsubishi Mirage. The Germans would have preferred that it be one of their own, but in the end, everybody loves a winner.
Well, the Minnesota Twins are already minus their starting second baseman, Wally Backman, on the disabled list. They can ill afford to lose another one. And thus, Al Newman standing in here is a good sign.
And blowing bubbles, so he's all right. You know, when you're down at second base, you have to make a quick decision, and Felix right on top of Al Newman. He could have been hurt. He could have been hurt badly there if he'd have come down on his neck.
They always talk about the pivot man at second base, Bobby, needing footwork. Newman takes a lot of heat from his teammates in Minnesota because he has unusually large feet for a relatively small guy. Takes the strike, 2-1.
Al Newman can play many positions for the Minnesota Twins. In some ways, he becomes more valuable than anybody else on the ball club.
Good defensive positioning, and Mosby right there to catch the line drive off Newman's bat. That's what advanced scouting will do for you. Dave Yoakum does that for the Toronto Blue Jays. They had Mosby in the right spot for Newman.
The advanced scout, every ball club has one, R2. Chart these hitters, see where they hit the ball, and off of what pitcher. And sometimes they even will tell you what pitch that they hit, whether it's a curveball or a fastball or a changeup.
Steve throws a strike to John Moses.
What I never could understand, Ted, was a lot of ball clubs, say if you had a shift on to John Moses on the right side and pitched him away. That's what I never did understand. If you're going to play him that way, you might as well pitch him that way.
Boy, there is a nasty breaking ball. And it's 0-2. Talked about the Jays not allowing home runs as a staff. Steve has yet to give one up this year in 47 innings. hasn't given up many hits. You can see the Twins are not hitting him hard as McGriff takes that ball on his own, and they're 2 down. A reminder that we'll be presenting our State Farm Rules of the Game feature during our 7th inning stretch timeout. Now 2 outs here in the 3rd, and Kirby Puckett the batter. Puckett came close last week to achieving a new, or more or less an esoteric baseball record. Last Sunday marked exactly 5 full years in the major leagues for Puckett, and he fell just 2 hits shy of the all-time major league record for the most hits by a player in his first 5 seasons. Hall of Famer Joe Medwick with that mark.
Some feel maybe the best player in the major leagues all around. You don't see a guy like Kirby Puckett who can do everything well.
That's hit well to right field. Felix drifting back, and in front of the big curtain in right field, he makes the catch to retire the side. So a 1-2-3 inning for Steve. We've cruised through 3 in a 1-1 game.
The moment.
Was watching. Enjoy your day tomorrow. Here we go to the 4th inning, and Tony Fernandez leads off against Shane Raleigh. Bobby mentioned earlier Raleigh had his first real strong outing for the Twins Monday night in Boston, giving up just 1 run pitching into the 8th inning. He threw harder than he had at any time as a Twin. He kind of cut loose a little bit. Shoulder problem late last year was still haunting him a bit psychologically. Threw hard, threw inside for the first time to right-handed batters.
Dick Such has been working with Shane Raleigh on some mechanical adjustments. Shane was saying that in between the start at Fenway, there's Dick Such right there, the pitching coach for the Twins, they were working on the delivery and his motion towards home plate. He was stopping a little bit short and wasn't getting that full extension with his arm. He's able to pop the ball a little bit better.
Comes in there, and it's slapped by Herbeck to right field. So Fernandez with a leadoff single in the 4th. But if Raleigh, and you mentioned Bobby, he's not a hard thrower. If he leaves the ball out over the plate like that, the right-handed batters are going to have a field day with it.
And you leave the ball out over the plate when you open up as you deliver the ball towards home plate. And that's what they were working on, was to try to get that motion and complete the motion as he delivers his arm and the ball towards home.
George Bell now a run-scoring single in the 1st inning. We're so used to looking at that Toronto batting order, Bobby, and seeing Mosby, Bell, Barfield, and it seems awkward now to look at it this weekend minus Barfield, the former league home run champ, who's now in New York.
It was almost 608 days before Gillick made a major trade when they traded Barfield to the Yankees for the youngster left-hander Al Leiter. You look at that trade, I mean 608 days. Here's Barfield, who's supposedly one of the mainstays here on this Blue Jay ball club, going to the Yankees, which is a rival in that division. I don't know if you got to throw up the red flag or not, just to kind of take a look at that trade, sit back and look at it.
Well, Jesse Barfield had a home run last night for the Yankees in California. You'll see him coming up the 2nd game of our doubleheader. Today, most of you will see the Yankees and the Angels in Anaheim. Some of you will see the Brewers and the Athletics in Oakland.
Barfield adds a lot of power to the Yankees if he can get his stroke back. He is struggling right now. He's hit a couple home runs in the last week.
And a good fastball in the inside corner. What a left-hander must do to survive, he got to pitch inside to the righties, and he got Bell looking.
And Bell cannot believe it. And he is still standing at home plate, but look at this pitch. It's right on the inside corner, a perfect pitch from Shane Raleigh. No doubt Bell was looking for something else in a different location. He may be gone. Dale Ford is warning him right now. And somebody needs to get out there. Jimmy Williams is out there now. He doesn't want Bell thrown out of this game. trying to calm Dale Ford, the home plate umpire, down along with George Bell.
Dale's umpires don't like to be shown up, and I'm sure Ford felt, hey, stand there in the batter's box. If you got something to say, step out and say it to me. Don't stand there in the box.
Or get your gripe in and take a hike. And George is still not happy, but when George stood at home plate after that call, like he couldn't believe that Ford could make a call like that, as we saw in the replay, it was a strike. And a good strike by Shane Raleigh. But of course, there's not a hitter in the world that will claim when they take a called third strike that it was a good pitch.
So Bell's seated, and here is McGriff. Rounded to second his first time. Began to mention the lefty versus lefty theory, which is being shot down, it seems like, in the American League frequently in the early parts of this season. Here's McGriff coming into this game, Bobby, batting .327 against left-handed pitching, just .250 against righties.
I think you take a guy like Fred McGriff, who can hit both sides, whether it be a left-hander or a right-hander. The left-hander feels like, I think, they will give him a better pitch to hit because they feel like they've got an advantage over a left-handed batter. I was a left-handed batter when I played, and I always got a better pitch from the left-handed pitcher, more so than I did from the righty. They were trying to be so careful with me on the right side that I didn't get that real good pitch all the time. On the other hand, when you do get that good pitch, you better be ready for it and swing at it, not take it. But here is a real rising star, this youngster Fred McGriff, a former Yankee, and he has really come on strong with the bat.
And an inside-out swing, and he pushes the ball to left field for a hit. Well, McGriff, who's been having a lot of strikeout problems in the last 2 weeks, on a 1-2 pitch, pushes a single to left, and the Jays have 2 runners on with 1 out.
You know, you almost cannot believe that the Blue Jays are playing as bad as they're playing right now, with guys like McGriff, guys like Fernandez, their pitching staff, their outfield. They're struggling just about every place. It's almost unbelievable that they've lost as many games as they have lost, and have lost 12 one-run games with the offense that they have.
Right now, the Blue Jays rank 9th in the league in runs. They have been in the top 5 in the league each of the last 5 years.
And it looks like now that Jimmy Williams is under fire over with the Blue Jays. Skipper. There's been a lot of talk about that since last year, him having that problem with George Bell and moving Bell to the designated hitter slot, and they had all kinds of controversy in '88.
Strike to Pat Borders. He holds up there. No, on the appeal, Greg Koss brings him up, and it's an 0-2 count. Talking with Pat Gillick last night, he stands by Williams. He says he looks at 2 things. Has the manager quit on the players? No, he says. And have the players quit on the manager? He says no to that as well. And Raleigh says sit down to Borders on 3 pitches. 2 strikeouts in the inning for Raleigh. This telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. And now the left-hander Lloyd Mosby stands in.
You can see Mosby right there trying to dip his shoulder down, like keep your shoulder in there and don't let your right front shoulder fly out. A lot of times a hitter like Mosby, who is in this awful slump that he's in, thinks he's got a slow bat. And a lot of times your bat is so slow because you pull out, your hands come forward, and actually you can only get a half a swing. He was fooled on that pitch right there. And on the other hand, so what do? To try to combat that, you speed it up, so you magnify your problem.
And you talk to yourself a lot.
He was talking to himself right there. An awful thing, but every player goes through a slump sometime during the season. And it's those good quality hitters that do not stay in the slump that long are able to get themselves out of it.
Why, this guy's talking to himself. His slump's gone on for almost a year and a half now. Tough 88. And heading into just the 160s, the interstate range here. Early in the 89 season.
It has gotten so bad that Mosby, hitting 7th in the lineup, he was their leadoff hitter when the 89 season started. And when Tom Lawless broke up the Mark Langston no-hitter Wednesday night, he was pinch hitting for Lloyd Mosby. Imagine what Mosby must have felt like going back to the dugout on that time. Well, against Mark Langston, he may have been happy too. We don't know that.
But I don't think any guy likes to be pinch hit for. No offense to Tom Lawless by a utility infield. But now Raleigh is a guy who's 0 for his last 25, and he's fallen behind him 3-1. And Raleigh comes back and gets him to chase that high fastball, and it's 3-2. There's Mosby swinging at what would have been ball 4. Two on, two out here in the 4th. We are tied at 1. And an automatic start for the runners. Struck him out. You will not see Shane Raleigh strike out the side in very many innings. But he did it there to strand 2 Blue Jays.
It's that eye-catching, head-turning, double-taking, no mistaking, gleaming, beaming, unbelieving, turtle wax shine. That neck craning, shine sustaining, heart jump finish, undiminished, traffic stopping, eye popping, turtle wax shine. That check it out, ain't no doubt, this is what it's all about. Turtle wax shine. Turtle wax.
Okay, look, I like my steaks very well done. What most people call ruined, I call perfect. I know it's not popular. And if I weren't 6'9", I'd catch a lot of flack.
I got a taste for some real food.
I heard Larry Bird liked well-done steaks, so maybe I'll invite him over for a couple of sirloins. Nice, rare sirloins. I got you, Larry. I got you.
I got a taste for some real food. From dawn's early light till the sun is set, Quaker State engines don't know when to quit.
Quaker State exceeds every single car maker's U.S. requirements for maximum engine protection. That's why in Atlanta, Georgia, the engine in every fire truck, every police car, every Atlanta city-owned vehicle is a Quaker State engine.
Quaker State engines don't know when to quit.
The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
Hey, nobody beats Midas, especially for foreign car brakes and mufflers. He came here because our price was a lot better than his car dealers, and because of our Midas guarantee. Nobody beats Midas. Nobody.
When the writers of Motor Trend took the Mitsubishi Galant out for testing, it was an intriguing new import. When they brought it back, it was Motor Trend Import Car of the Year.
The first of Shane Raleigh's 3 strikeouts in the 4th inning, buzzing that fastball by Bell. And Bell's sitting and watching now in the dugout. If you watch the Blue Jays, Bobby, around the batting cage the last 2 days, they don't seem to have the same life that they've been known for the last few years.
No, and it really is showing. They are frustrated. They don't know what's wrong. They know they got a good ball club. They know that they have been picked to win the Eastern Division in 1989. They just can't get it started. You've got to have a leader on your ball club to pull those players together, like Ken Herbeck has done with the Minnesota Twins. The Blue Jays, they don't have anybody right now. Bell is not the kind of leader that would do something like that. Barfield, maybe. He is not there anymore. He's with the Yankees.
Goes around there. Does Herbeck, and it's 1-1. And so while the Blue Jays look for that mantle, Herbeck has assumed that mantle here. The Twins don't like the word leadership. You won't hear anybody say it, but they have been incredibly productive with Herbeck in the lineup.
You hear a lot of guys talk about, well, leadership on the field. Do it with the bat. Do it with your play. Sure, that's all. That's good, too, as you take a look at that and what he means to the Minnesota Twins. But once in a while, when you get a little lackadaisical and things are not going well, you need a guy like Kent Hrbek. Come over, pat you on the back, say nice play, or hang in there, or what have you.
Didn't get all of that one, and Felix runs it down for the out. A guy coming up now, Gaetti, really was the heart and soul of this Twins team last year. Hrbek is assuming that role this year. It's quiet. It's not a spoken thing, but it's really through example. Gaetti has had some struggles early this year. His numbers are still good.
A lot of guys, they don't want to have anything to do with that. They feel like it adds more pressure to them as an individual. But some guys will accept the role and accept it well. Some teams have their captains and co-captains.
That breaking ball, the first pitch to Gaetti, is what has given him trouble this year. Hard stuff down and away. That one, that breaking ball, is hit to right center, and Felix has made 3 straight putouts. And there are 2 down in the inning as we check the scoreboard once again. Still scoreless at Wrigley Field now in the 4th inning. The Mets leading the Padres after 2. The Giants with that 3-run first inning leading Montreal. Hey, and the rain has stopped in Cleveland. That's good news. And they're underway in the 1st inning. Bush going at the slider, and that's strike 1.
You can see that Dave Stieb has really got that slider working for him right now. He struggled a bit first couple of innings, but he's got that sharp, hard breaking slider working for him. We mentioned he'll throw it on any count.
Breaking ball is hammered to McGriff. Stieb covers, and he has now retired 8 consecutive batters. After 4, we stay tied at 1, and we'll be right back after these messages from your local station.
Witness the dawn of an American classic. Tour de Trump, Sunday on NBC.
You did the laundry. Oh, man. And you got paid. You're an adult now. You know the 4 basic food groups. You'd like to talk, but you gotta go. Achieve total lightosity. Old style lights.
Ahoy, mates. It's WBM Marines pre-Memorial Day sale. Come on. Don't miss it. The pre-Memorial Day sale on now at WBM Marine, Waterloo.
Dollar-wise destinations, cheap airfares, great hotel rates. Uncover hidden vacation values.
You can get a very nice weekend package at most big cities now for a lot less money.
I think, in my opinion, the best value is to take a cruise.
I would recommend Portugal, Greece, Spain probably too.
Discover travel bargains. Watch Getting Away for Less. A special report beginning Monday at noon on KWWL.
Thank you for watching KWWL, Iowa's news channel.
In Minneapolis, Bobby, the mind games that develop during a game. If you're Shane Raleigh on the mound now for the Twins, you have to think, hey, we're not going to score much off Steve today. I better be perfect.
Well, both these ball clubs are having problems scoring runs, and it puts a little added pressure on the starting pitcher. And he knows that if he gives up a couple of runs, he may be in trouble for the rest of the game. So, but they've answered the challenge so far, both Raleigh and Dave Stieb. But now this becomes the important part of this game. We're in the middle innings. Everybody has gone through the pitcher at least one time as far as the hitter is concerned.
Nelson Liriano out off the end of his bat to left field. And Moses with the catch. There's one away. 0 on 1 pitch, 1 out. Raleigh had a rare inning in the 4th, striking out the side. He normally now has become a pitcher who needs to keep the ball in play, let the Minnesota defense, which last year was the best in Major League history statistically, let them help him out.
Well, he's going to keep the ball in play. Like you said, I can't believe, I don't remember the first time or the last time that Raleigh struck out the side, which he did in the 4th inning. But they're going to put the ball in play off of Raleigh, and you're going to have to depend on that defense. And Raleigh's motion, he's worked out some mechanical problems delivering the ball towards home plate. He wants to get a more fluid delivery and not open up, as you can see that follow through all the way through, and that's allowed him to get more pop on his fastball.
A ball and 2 strikes. Raleigh, a veteran, is still in good physical shape. He's a devotee many of the principles of Gus Heflin, the Phillies exercise conditioner and expert who helped Steve Carlton, most famously amongst many. Raleigh adopted many of those principles when he was with Philadelphia.
Raleigh, he feels like he got a bad rap in Philadelphia. There was a lot of talk about Raleigh being a bad guy on a ball club, a bad influence, would stare down his own players if they made a mistake behind him. I knew Raleigh when he was with the Yankees back in the early 80s, and I didn't know Raleigh to be that way. He was a fun guy to be around and always jovial.
And Ducey strikes out. So Shane Raleigh has 4 strikeouts in the game. They've all come in the last inning and 2/3.
You can see right there that Raleigh used that breaking ball, sharp breaking ball, to go along with that fastball.
Now Junior Felix. He is 0 for 2 in the game.
He's got some power. He can pop the ball out of the ballpark. In fact, I think it was on his first at-bat in the major leagues. He hit a home run. 0 for 2 today. He's got good speed to go along with that switch hitting power.
The mere fact he's here is almost amazing. Junior Felix last year was playing Double-A ball for the Blue Jays in Knoxville, Tennessee, and he was sent home halfway through the year. That's a foul out of play. They told him to go back to the Dominican Republic midway through the year for insubordination. He repeatedly was late for games, for buses, for trips. But here's a guy that spent the second half of last year sitting at home, and now May of this season in the big leagues. And Raleigh fields the comebacker, and he gets the Blue Jays in order in the 5th. So Raleigh holding up his end of the bargain as we stay in a 1-1 tie.
So, you've just waxed your car, and you've discovered something very sad. Your car has a clear coat finish. If you've used ordinary wax, that finish is finished. New Simonized non-abrasive wax is different. It won't scratch today's clear coat finishes like ordinary wax. And that can save you a lot of grief.
If you think there's not a nickel's worth of difference between Chevy S10 and Ford Ranger, check Chevy's longer, wider box. Or Chevy's warranty, covering hundreds of non-powertrain parts. 2 years longer than Ford's. In fact, there's over 20,000 nickels difference. Because this Chevy costs over $1,000 less. Plus choose another 15,000 nickels cash back. And you can take that to the bank.
That's today's Chevy truck.
Et voilà, le pig. Let me guess. Burgers and fries? Wrong hotel.
What?
I trust you brought your own high chair.
Hey, what kind of a...
Maitre D gets very upset if you raise your voice. You guys should have stayed at Holiday Inn. They've got great stuff for kids. Pizza, pools, games. You're better than this place. But since you're here, may I suggest the eels flambé?
Why take chances? Stay with someone you know. Holiday Inn.
At last, a new twist in oil filters. The new DuraGuard filter from AC. So good, it can cut abrasive engine wear nearly in half. No use looking for any other filter. Now, there's double the reason to go with AC.
Precision AC Delco parts. They don't just fit, they match.
AC DuraGuard. Why mess with anything less?
Duragard oil filters are available at everyday low prices at Kmart across the USA.
At the Metrodome in Minneapolis, 1987, this was almost an unbeatable place for the Minnesota Twins. They had a terrific dome advantage. Last year, they became a much better road club, and the dome magic wore off. And this year, the Twins are just 8-9 thus far indoors. Here's Gene Larkin now leading off against Steve, who was allowed just 2 hits. Larkin with 1 of them. A double in the second inning. Larkin is a native of New York and Long Island. He grew up a Yankee fan and said the player he most modeled himself after was an old center fielder in New York by the name of Murcer.
Oh, come on.
So that's why he went to an Ivy League school. He went to Columbia because he wanted to emulate Bobby Murcer.
Well, they tried him in the outfield, and it didn't work out for him. My outfield play was somewhat to be desired at times.
2-1.
He kills the Yankees. I mean, he is a Yankee. All they have to do is throw the ball up there, and he gets a base hit or a home run someplace.
Larkin, one of the very few to come out of an Ivy League school, play Major League Baseball. Columbia University product. He drills a base hit. So 3 Minnesota hits, 2 of them by Larkin batting left-handed. The other was the bloop by the right-hander Puckett that was lost by Mosby in the roof. Steve has continued to be strong to the right-handers. Don't forget tomorrow on NBC Sports, the exciting finale of the Tour de Trump. An NBC Sports special tomorrow at 3 Eastern. Now the catcher, Tim Laudner. Laudner and Brian Harper have been alternating as the Twins catchers this year, and basically alternating by the pitchers. Laudner has been the catcher for Frank Viola and Shane Rawley. Brian Harper has been the catcher for Alan Anderson and Roy Smith. Some managers don't like that. They don't like to establish that dependence. But in the Minnesota Twins case, it has worked. Laudner and Viola have worked together a long time. And Harper and Anderson had a great working relationship last year when Anderson won the league ERA title.
I think that's the bottom line, if it works. Bottom line in baseball is win. And if you're winning, why change anything? But it's great to have the catchers with the versatility and have 2 catchers of Harper and Laudner's experience, their capabilities behind the plate.
Pat Borders looks to the dugout. They get some signals sent in. There goes Larkin, and Laudner hits that ball pretty well to right field, and Felix will have to play that off the curtain. Larkin will go to third, and Laudner to second with a double. So the first right-handed batter to really hit the ball well off Steve today is Laudner.
And this was a hit and run. And Larkin was off with the pitch, and you can see that Laudner was taking the ball to the opposite field all the way, and he got a good piece of it. And he drove it off that 23-foot high curtain in right field. A lot of times when you put on the hit and run like that from the hitter's standpoint, it makes you stay on the ball a little bit longer, because you know that to hit the ball to the opposite field that you have to stay on a little bit longer. You won't pull that left shoulder out.
Laudner is a dead low ball hitter, and he got a ball in his zone there. Even though he couldn't pull it, he was able to send it a good long way to right. Now Steve starts Gagne with a strike. So the Twins have runners at second and third, no one out. Jam for Steve. The Jays playing infielders at the corners, even with the bag. They're back at It's short and second. What Steve is thinking here is strikeout. Gagne has got some pop in his bat, but has had some problems in his career making contact.
Well, the Twins will pick up a run on just about anything that Gagne does, except hitting the ball back to Steve or to the first baseman. McGriff was playing in. Now he's going to back up with an 0-2 count. And of course, if Gagne pops the ball up on the infield, they won't score. That's just a show me fastball to run Gagne off the plate. Normally when you do that, you come back with the breaking ball, and Steve's got a good one now, so we'll see what he does. Of course, you're not supposed to pitch inside anymore in baseball as far as the hitter is concerned.
You can see Gagne kind of freezing as that breaking ball started out, heading right for his helmet. Broke in but missed the plate, and it's 2-2. Larkin at third, Laudner at second. Not great speed on the bases. And Gagne taps that to short center, and it will drop for a hit. One run scores, and Laudner doing a good job of base running, read that all the way, and he comes in to score. A two-run single by Greg Gagne puts Minnesota in front 3-1.
Minnesota getting the big hits at the right time here in the bottom of the fifth inning. They're on a streak right now. They have won 3 in a row. Jimmy Williams, on the other hand, his streak is going the other way. Minnesota cannot afford to fall back any more games in that Western Division. They are 8 games back going into this ball game. On the other hand, Ted, the Eastern Division, it's 2 teams are only playing .500 baseball, the Red Sox and the Yankees. Toronto with that 12-22 record, only 6 games back.
Now they work on Gagne, who has good speed at first base, still learning under the tutelage of Coach Jerry White, working a lot on jumps, reading a pitcher's move and getting a jump to become a better base stealer.
Boy, you look at both of these divisions now, the Western Division and the Eastern Division. What a flip-flop. The Western Division, much tougher division now in 1989. Beforehand, well, I would say the last, what, 15, 20 years maybe? Maybe not that long, but the Eastern Division was the dominant division in the American League. Now the West with Oakland, that ball club that they've got the most wins in the major leagues. California's coming on strong. Kansas City. Texas and the trades that they made, there's something to deal with. Of course, Minnesota and Seattle. Not a weak team in there.
5 clubs playing .500 ball in the West right now. And Minnesota won 91 games last year. They finished second best record in the league, but they spent their whole year chasing Oakland. And it's a tiring thing, as you know, Bobby, to chase one club all year and never catch them. They have put themselves in the same spot this year.
The big problem is not falling back too far and digging yourself into a hole that you can't climb out of. On the other hand, if Toronto was in the Western Division now, they'd almost be out of it.
Now, after all those throws, Gagne is running on the first pitch to Newman, and he delivers a base hit to right field. If you're in the Minnesota dugout, there have been some encouraging things in this inning. Laudner did a great job of base running on the hit by Gagne, reading that immediately to score from second. There, Bobby Newman waits through all those throws to first. On the first pitch, he gets a base hit.
And this is the second hit and run in this inning. As you can see, Gagne racing to third. Newman delivering the ball to the right side. And the second time in this inning that the Minnesota Twins have executed the hit and run, and successfully.
Well, through 4 innings, Steve was extremely tough, but the Twins' first 4 batters here in the 5th have hit safely, and that brings the venerable Al Widmar out of the Toronto dugout, pitching coach, and that is left-hander Tony Castillo warming up for the Blue Jays. Widmar. Takes him a little longer to get to the mound than most pitching coaches, but boy, he's done a good job.
Well, he's from the old school. In fact, Widmar is one of the just one of 2 St. Louis Browns still associated with baseball. That's going a long ways back.
Wow.
The other being the Houston coach Les Moss.
Do you think he'll admit that?
I'm sure he would. He's got a lot of memories. And Al Leiter said that just working with Al Widmar, he comes from the old school. There's not a whole lot of fancy stuff that he wants to talk about. It's just basic, you know, pick up the ball, look for home, and throw strikes. Castillo now warming up for the Blue Jays.
Reason Widmar walks slowly, he had neck and back surgery last year and missed part of the year. Galen Cisco was the pitching coach for the Blue Jays while Widmar recuperated. '63 years young. Now John Moses the batter with runners at first and third, still no one out in the inning, and 2 runs in for Minnesota. High chopper, this will score another run, and Gruber will have only 1 play. He just does get Moses, but Gagne scores the 3rd run of the inning. And it's a 4-1 lead for Minnesota.
That's a good play by Kelly Gruber. He did not panic on that ball that was chopped down at home plate. The high chopper. He knew that he did not have a chance of throwing the runner out at third. Gagne scoring that run makes it 4-1 now. But he held his composure and threw the runner out at first base.
Gruber, one of the many Blue Jays before the game, talking about just every little thing that has gone wrong for this team.
You know, he made a statement this morning in the paper, Kelly Gruber did, about how they miss Jesse Barfield, Mark Eichhorn.
And a smash by Puckett into the left field corner. That will score another run. And Puckett into second with his 2nd double and 2nd RBI of the game. Broken out against Steve here in the 5th. A 4-run inning. They lead 5-1. The Twins may be the most aggressive hitting club in the league. First pitch, and Puckett's jumped all over a first pitch strike there to end Steve's day.
You talk about an aggressive hitter. Now Kirby Puckett, he doesn't let anything go by. Steve threw that ball right down the middle, and Puckett was ready to deliver the double. Steve did not have his stuff this afternoon as Castillo will come on and take over for the Blue Jays. Dave Steve. We'll be back right after these messages.
Radio Shack. Here it is. The Tandy 1000 SL computer system. IBM PC compatible and sale price for under $9.99. Save $200.
Comes complete with color monitor and built-in DeskMate software.
Word processing, graphics, worksheet.
I've never seen one so easy to use.
Greetings. Need directions back to your planet?
This technology is more advanced than we thought.
And we saved $200.
Beam it up.
Save $200 on the Tandy 1000 SL system. Less than $999 only at Radio Shack. Presenting Kodacolor Gold 100.
I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors. That's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors.
Kodacolor Gold 100 gives you the truest color, the most accurate color of any print film.
True colors are beautiful, like a rainbow.
Sometimes after a big lunch, a day at the park is a little too much for Tommy Lasorda. So he reaches for relief. Rolaids, antacid. For millions, nothing, absolutely nothing works better for heartburn and acid indigestion. And why should heartburn take the fun out of the game? Get relief. You know how to spell it.
This relief break is brought to you by Rolaids. And here's a look at this week's American and National League leaders in the standings for the Rolaids Relief Man Awards. In the American League, no surprise at Eckersley, but Steve Farr of Kansas City, 8 for 8 thus far, is in second place. Mark Davis and John Franco, 1 and 2 in the National League. We'll track total points all year, awarded on the basis of wins, losses, saves, and that BSV blown saves. You look at 3 of the 4 relievers there, perfect already this season.
Outstanding, and the Blue Jays hope that Tony Castillo can be perfect. 1-1 on the year. He's got 1 save, but a high ERA. He is a rookie, only 26 years old. Out of Valenzuela, or Venezuela. Valenzuela, he's out on the West Coast.
Yeah, that's right. And Castillo pitching to Kent Herbeck, who takes ball 1. Herbeck hits left-handers decently. But managers almost always will bring a lefty in to face him. Lefties against Castillo this year, and here's another one of those numbers. Lefties batting .308 against Castillo. Left-handed pitchers, Bobby, I've asked a lot of lefties this question this year. They say they get in such a groove pitching to right-handed batters that when a lefty comes up, they lose their rhythm, and all of a sudden they have to throw the ball differently and wind up serving what you talked about earlier, some fatter pitches.
More mental. This whole game of baseball is the mental approach is probably 90% of the game. You wouldn't be in the big leagues unless you had the ability to play here, unless you had the ability to swing the bat hard, to pitch the baseball. But when you approach it mentally, some guys can handle it a lot better than others. I think everybody's basically on the same line, and those guys that are successful, they reach up above that line because they are able to handle it mentally.
Fouls the low pitch away, and it's 2-2.
Such as the Blue Jays right now as a team. Their mental approach to playing every game, they're waiting for something to happen that's bad against them. They're not going out there and taking the bull by the horn. You can see that they got their, looks like they got their heads between their tails and just kind of walking around wounded, not knowing how to get out of it, just waiting for something to happen.
Herbeck hanging in there against the left-hander with another foul.
But they're starting to make some changes, the Blue Jays. We mentioned the Barfield trade. It's been a long time since Pat Gillick had made a trade. They've got 3 rookies on the roster right now. They've got some young pitchers.
When a club stays together as long as the Blue Jays did, there has to be a comfort level setting in, and the Barfield trade shook that up. And Herbeck drops one that will fall for a hit and score another run. The reward of a good at-bat for Herbeck right now to New York, and Gail Gardner for an update.
Thank you, Ted. It is turning into Mackey Sasser Day at Shea. The backup catcher already had an RBI double. This time a line homer off of Ed Whitson. Sasser making the most of filling in for Gary Carter. The Mets lead 3-1 in the 5th. Let's go back to Ted and Bobby in Minnesota.
All right, Gail, thank you. The Twins have put 5 runs on the board here in the 5th inning. And the reward of a good at-bat as Herbeck fouled several tough pitches off from the left-hander and then dropped the RBI single into right field. Now Gaetti beats one in the turf, and it skips through Gruber. Herbeck will come to third. Gaetti is headed to second as the nightmare continues for the Blue Jays. You ask some of the people around the Blue Jays, Bobby, why they're struggling, and they mentioned defense.
And in all fairness to Kelly Gruber, that is one of the toughest plays for the third baseman. The only dirt portion on this field is at third around the bases. That hit that dirt portion, took a wicked bounce, and the only chance for Gruber was to charge it and to make a short hop of it. It didn't happen, and those are the things that happen to you when you're going back. Seems like, excuse me, Ted, just seems like everything that should be happening in your favor just goes against you.
That was an all-or-nothing play for Gruber. Yep. He has to charge that ball, and he's going to have one play. So it's the second error.
100-point difference home and road. So he'll get the free pass.
Getting Gladden from San Francisco seemed to really spark this ball club. He's the kind of player, and he leads by example. A fiery type of guy that comes to the ballpark ready to play every day. And he gives you 100%.
I think he does for Minnesota what Tony Fernandez does for Toronto. When he's on base, serving as a catalyst, he'll let the big boys come up and take their shots, and the Twins click. So the bases now are loaded. There's still just one out in the inning. Minnesota has scored 5 runs already. And the 10th man to bat is Gene Larkin. He started the inning with a base hit off Steve. He now turns around to bat right-handed, and he is hitting 200 points higher right-handed this year. 368. That misses outside, ball 1. There is an unusual sight. Tom Henke warming up with the Blue Jays trailing by 5. But this youngster, who spent most of last year in Class A ball before getting a shot with the Jays late in the year, is struggling right now. 2-0 the count to Larkin. He comes in with a strike.
You know, a rookie that comes to this ballpark to pitch, and if you are struggling a little bit, you know that it is the friendly confines of the Minnesota Twins, and at one bad pitch you can clear the bases.
Now 3-1. So a pitch away from forcing in a run. Swinging away. It's into shallow center field. Herbeck tagging. Mosby catches, and Herbeck's coming to the plate. And the throw's offline to allow Herbeck to score. Herbeck's playing with a full quadriceps muscle. I'm a little surprised he was set in. And Mosby had a good chance, but his throw was way offline, forced McGriff to cut it off.
Well, Mosby did not set himself at center field. He was more worried about picking the ball up and catching it than getting his momentum and himself started towards home plate once he caught the ball. He threw the ball flat-footed.
6 runs in the inning. 2 men are out, and Tim Laudner the batter. Gaetti is the runner at second, and Gladden the runner at first. Laudner hit and run double off the right field curtain earlier in this inning. Twins have had 6 hits in the inning, 1 error, and they have scored 6 runs. The Blue Jays have now committed 32 errors in 35 games. They feel their bullpen has been made to look worse than it actually has been because of some defensive miscues.
Well, you cannot afford to give that 4th and 5th out every inning, because in the major leagues it'll come back to haunt you. And good ball clubs take advantage of the mistakes of the opposing ball club. The Blue Jays are not playing well now. When they make the mistakes, the other ball club takes advantage of it.
Laudner takes the strike, and it's 2-2.
Just coming into this ball game, of course, you and I talked about this earlier. It just seemed that the Blue Jays came out with a little bit more spark. I mean, the Minnesota Twins came out with a little bit more spark, even during batting practice, talking with some of the players, than the Blue Jays did. They just feel a little bit more confident now. Of course, they've won 3 in a row, and if they win today, it'll be 4.
That's a little fish shot into short left. A long run, and Fernandez out there. As Ducey would not have gotten to that ball, but Fernandez runs it down. 11 men bat, 6 score in the 5th for Minnesota.
Die Hard, America's most trusted replacement battery. The one over 65 million have stepped up to. Now Sears introduces the most powerful Die Hard battery ever. New Die Hard, more power when you need it most.
We switched from Ford to Chevy.
Listen to the heartbeat of America.
We have to have equipment that will hold up to the job, and the Chevy does it. We're generally pulling something, and generally it's pretty heavy. We use them hard, and they stand up to it. And we do it all day long, and we don't worry about it. Now, that's what we have to have in a truck out here to get the job done.
That's the D Chevy truck.
The moment. There are those our lives endure, and those our hearts endear. So whether it's the moment you need cash, or a moment meant to share, you can count on MasterCard in nearly 3 times the number of places as American Express. Wherever you happen to be, wherever the moment may find you. MasterCard. Master the moment.
It's not just a car, it's your freedom.
So, a car in good shape?
Yeah, had it all checked out.
Gas station?
Nah, GM dealership. Figure those Goodwrench guys know what they're doing.
Good. So, any idea where you're going?
Not exactly. But I'll let you know when I get there.
I'll be waiting.
Mr. Goodwrench knows it's not just a car, it's your freedom.
Do you know what it's like to walk out onto the fresh-cut grass at Yankee Stadium the morning before the game? Now you do. Adidas Aftershave and Cologne. The essence of sports.
Well, Al Leiter once was a Yankee. Now he is a Blue Jay. That trade sending Barfield to the New York Yankees, and the Blue Jays getting a fine young arm in Al Leiter. He's only 23 years old. But the Yankees needing some power, they were able to give up that young pitching. I tell you what, Ted, it's awfully tough to give up young pitching. But when you talk about baseball, you talk 75% of the game is pitching, and when you got a young arm like Leiter, of course, when you get caught in a hole and you need power, you sometimes have to make those trades.
The thing that's hard to believe about the trade, Bobby, is that the Yankees make that deal, then this week they're rumored talking to Oakland, trying to acquire a left-handed pitcher there. As Gruber gets a base hit to start the 6th inning for Toronto and breaks out of an 0 for 14 stretch.
Just another short subject on the Yankees and their trade. John Candelaria was put on the disabled list, their mainstay in their rotation, and now that Leiter is gone, they've got to find somebody to fill the void.
Well, that was my point. They're talking about acquiring either Rick Honeycutt or Kurt Young from Oakland, neither of whom has an arm anywhere near the arm that Al Leiter has. Potential.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
It's awfully tough to give up young pitching.
Now, Shane Raleigh had a long stretch to sit and watch during that 5th inning when the Twins scored 6 times. He now gets a ground ball from Fernandez. Gagne steps and throws for the double play. Very underrated defensive shortstop, Greg Gagne.
You talk about the pitcher's best friend. You are seeing it right now. Raleigh got the ball up in the strike zone from Fernandez, but Gagne, being the fine shortstop that he is, what an easy double play. That'll take a lot of pressure off of you if you're a pitcher.
And now George Bell with 2 outs and nobody on. Talk about Gene Larkin having Bobby Murcer as his hero when he was a youngster. Another man who had Bobby Murcer as his idol when he was growing up, Tommy John. Pitches for the Yankees today against the Angels in the 2nd half of our doubleheader.
Isn't he amazing?
And Bell skies one into short right field. Moses moving over there this inning with Gladden taking over in left field. And Moses makes the catch, the inning over, and Raleigh gets the Jays out in the 6th.
Now's the time to get out and go. Hit the great American road. Get up, get over, get smart. Your Buick dealer is the place to start. Now's the time, now's the time. Hit the road, hit the road. The great American road. 'Cause the great American road belongs to Buick. It's that eye-catching, head-turning, double-taking, no mistaking, gleaming, beaming, unbelieving, turtle wax shine. That neck creaming, shine sustaining, heart show finish, undiminished, traffic stopping, eye popping, turtle wax shine. Now check it out, ain't no doubt, this is what it's all about. Turtle wax shine. Turtle wax.
For hanging in, for hanging tough, for holding on when the going's rough, for the smile that's part of you, that extra mile, for coming through this buzz for you.
Beechwood Aged, with a taste so crisp and clean, so refreshing, it's the king of beers.
For you.
The fiber that's pound for pound, 5 times stronger than steel, and is in the protective vests worn by police, makes up the unique belt of road handler treadlock radials at Sears. Tough tires you can trust.
For water that's as clear as the sky, nothing simpler or more effective than HTH Dry Chlorinator. Now save up to $30 on HTH pool products, America's clear choice.
In the second game of our doubleheader, you'll see either the Yankees and the Angels. Don Mattingly trying to get untracked, and Tommy John on the mound for the Yankees today. Or you'll see the Brewers and Athletics in Oakland. Comes up next on NBC. Here's Frank Gagne drilling the first pitch down the left field line from Tony Castillo, and Gagne starts the 6th inning with a double.
Boy, you know there's got to be a big smile on Tom Kelly's face with the way the Minnesota Twins have broken out this afternoon, and they really broke it wide open in the 5th, and they're continuing here in the 6th inning. You ever see him smile, though? You know, I think the...
you know when he smiles? When he's around racehorses.
Is that right?
Tom Kelly's a tremendous fan of thoroughbred racing. Part owner of a horse with Ken Herbeck. Newman now batting right-handed.
I used to own a few horses, and I remember them saying that it is the sport of kings. Well, when I found out I was a knight, I got out. And believe me, it is the sport of kings.
Does it humble you more than the slider?
It did at that time. Depends on whether Steve Carlton or Mickey Lolich or Jimmy Cotton was throwing that slider at me.
Newman taking outside, a ball and 2 strikes. Left-hander Tony Castillo came on to relieve Steve in the 5th. He's starting his first full inning. Defensive mistake.
Well, a great play by McGriff at first base, but there's nothing he can do about it. You can see he rears back to throw the ball to first base, but there's nobody there. Castillo delivers, and Newman's got good speed. He turns around and just takes a look to see whether the ball goes through the infield or not. And when he finds out it did not, it's too late to cover the bag. So that's a rookie mistake.
John Moses now turns around to bat right-handed.
You would think as many times these ball clubs work on that particular play in spring training, it would just come natural to you. Every time the ball is hit on the ground towards the right side, from the pitcher standpoint, you just run towards first base.
Porter's trying to catch Gagne napping. You know, you mentioned that, Bobby, and it'd be interesting to see the next time the Blue Jays have an off day if Jimmy Williams doesn't do something like that, run through some fundamentals. Minnesota had an off day here Thursday, and that's what Tom Kelly did. They came out, worked on pickoff plays, catchers throwing, and the Twins have thrown out 3 Steelers in these 2 games of this series.
I think it would be very important for a ball club, especially a club that has some young players. If you take a look at Tom Hankey now warming up for the Blue Jays, rookie players like Felix Junior Felix to take some fly balls in this place, as many as you could take, just to try to get used to it.
The Blue Jays players were talking today as Gagne takes his lead off third and Newman off first. A 3-1 count now to Moses. And he drives the base hit. Scoring is Gagne, and it's 8-1 Minnesota. John Moses, a switch hitter who has been typecast as a guy they really can only hit left-handed. And he's trying to prove, no, I can swing it right-handed as well. I don't like that hit.
Right now, everybody is hitting for the Minnesota Twins, and Jimmy Williams is on his way to the mound once again. Hankey warming up, and the Blue Jay bullpen. They signal for Tom Hankey now, so he will come into the ball game, and we will be back right after these messages.
Some guys look at this, they see just another brake job. Just another brake job? Not to the guy who drives this car. Not to me either.
Mr. Good French knows it's not just a car, it's your freedom.
If you don't like the looks of your car, shoot it with Son of a Gun from STP. Shoot the dash, seats, tires, and roof. Son of a Gun protecting. Man, what a difference.
The product, the vehicles, the testing grounds, the results. STP oil treatment is the edge.
Now's the time to get out and go. Hit the great American road. Get up, get over, get smart. Your Buick dealer is the place to start. Now's the time, now's the time. Hit the road, the great American road. 'Cause the great American road belongs to Buick.
I know my way around a switchboard better than anyone. But this new system they got here, well, it's so complicated no one can work it out. It's no wonder things are running amok around here. I think they should just cut their losses and start from scratch.
Die Hard, America's most trusted replacement battery. The one over 65 million have stepped up to. Now Sears introduces the most powerful Die Hard battery ever. New Die Hard, more power when you need it most.
Once one of the premier closers in the American League, Tom Hankey, with that bloated ERA, is now pitching in what can charitably be described as a mop-up situation. The Jays are down 8-1. Sixth inning, Kirby Puckett the batter. Nobody out, runners at first and second.
Well, one of the problems, we talked about it earlier in the telecast, has been the bullpen for the Blue Jays. Tom Hankey, Dwayne Ward. But Hankey being one of the premier stoppers out of the bullpen. Last year with 25 saves, the year before with 34.
And Puckett delivers his third hit. That will score one run. Moses is coming to the plate. Fernandez with the relay, and Moses is out. Boy, an exceptional sweep play by Borders. Moses says no, but Dale Ford rings him up. Puckett goes all the way to third, and it's a 9-1 game.
And Tom Kelly was out there. He will take Moses back to the bench. A nice hustling play, and why not take a chance? All the way around, and I'll tell you what, that was a close play at home. But Dale Ford right on top of it. You can see Kirby Puckett now. He picks the ball up, and he's watching the runner, and when the runner takes off, so does Puckett. And the Twins have really been running the bases well this afternoon.
Herbeck chops one, and McGriff snatches it and looks at Kirby. Puckett returns to third, and McGriff retires Herbeck for the second out. Let's watch this play at the plate now. And again, Bobby, I want you to tell me, do you think Ford is in the right position to make this call?
Well, he's in a position. That's the only position I think that he could be in to make the call. If he was on the other side, he was right in front of him. But from that camera view, it looked like that Moses slid away from the tag of Borders.
Looks like Borders missed him. It's one thing around the American League that I've heard some people complain about this year. They feel that sometimes umpires have been caught out of position making calls on close plays. One strike, the count to Gaetti. And in a 9-1 game, Tom Kelly was interested in getting Moses away from the umpire, keeping him in the game.
Yeah.
And Gaetti pops this one foul. It will also make the seats, and a 2-strike count. Hankey on the mound has pitched only once in 11 days. There were the 2 thoroughbred horse owners.
In Minnesota and all around baseball, Ken Herbeck is a pretty good thoroughbred himself without owning any horses. They got some dealing to do. The Minnesota Twins. They've got to sign Herbeck. They've got to sign Puckett. They've also got to sign Jeff Reardon if they want to keep any of those guys. They're all free agents at the end of the year. And I'm not so sure, Ted. The first game of the season when Frank Viola came out with his farewell speech, he was also a free agent. They have since signed Viola, but I'm not sure that there's not some aftermath from that negotiation. It was talked about in the papers so much. I think it affected the ball club a little bit.
Gaetti chasing the forkball, strikes out. But the Twins add 2 more runs in the 6th inning. And we'll be right back after these messages from your local station.
Sunday. Matthew Broderick, Charlie Sheen, the whole world play hooky.
Ferris Bueller's behind us.
The network premiere, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Sunday.
The new 1989 Ford Thunderbird, a tradition of style and performance unmatched by any other American car. And right now, your local Ford dealer is offering $1,000 cash back on Thunderbird. With a new design and improved suspension, the Thunderbird tradition is still going strong. And with $1,000 cash back, plus over $900 savings and options, the tradition is getting even better. But don't wait. Ford Thunderbird and $1,000 cash back won't be together for long. See your local Ford dealer today.
Now is the best time to visit your local RV dealer. It's National RV Open House Week, the biggest celebration in RV history.
Come help us celebrate RV Open House Week. We'll have the coffee and donuts and the best prices on America's top RV product lines. 2 locations to serve your needs: 4800 Highway 63 South, 1210 6th Street Northwest in Rochester, Minnesota. Discover the wonderful world of RVs at Country RV.
So join in the fun of National RV Open House Week. See you soon.
The John Deere promise. Buy this new 1989 walk-behind, test drive it for a full month. If you don't agree it's the best mower you ever used, you can bring it back for a full refund.
And here's where you can get it.
John Deere quality goes hand in hand with the quality service you get from Terry Peck Incorporated in Waverly.
Stop at Platt's, a family-owned business. We've served you at the same location for 25 years.
It's the best walk-behind ever made, or we've got a big problem.
Thanks for watching KWWL, Iowa's news channel.
You know, in Minneapolis, it's difficult for the players that live here year-round to work out in the offseason. There's one batting cage that some of the Twins who live here in the wintertime use. The guy who runs it, Steve Sagadol, was here today telling me he tried to get you to come back in 1985 with the Yankees.
He tried to make me give me a chance to come back. I made that try to make the transition after being out a year and a half. Somehow talked Mr. Steinbrenner into giving me another shot at coming back, but I tore my rotator cuff, and that was all she wrote. Not even Steve could help me.
Not even those hours of endless batting practice in Fort Lauderdale.
No, it was awful.
All right, we go back now to the action here as we go to the 7th inning. A 9-1 lead for Minnesota, and Shane Raleigh will pitch to Bob Brenly, who will bat for Fred McGriff. And Brenly fouls fouls the first pitch off. Brenly, a National League veteran, signed by the Blue Jays as a free agent in the winter, and he has been their DH against left-handed pitching most of the year, not so today. Shane Raleigh winning Monday night at Fenway Park, trying to back it up with another strong outing here, and it would give Minnesota cause for optimism. The guy they had penciled in as their third starter in spring training, Fred Tolliver, just fizzled and was outrighted to the minor leagues this week. So the Twins are a little short in the right-handed starters department. Brenly breaks a bat, and up drops in front of Puckett for a base hit. It's all pinch hit single by Bob Brenly here leading off the 7th.
Well, that's a Metrodome hit. Kirby Puckett having to hold up on that, just take it on the big hop after it bounces one time. They claim that playing on the artificial surface with plays like that, and of course the ball traveling much faster on the infield, that you could pick up another 15 to 25 points on your batting average over a course of the year.
But there are no bad hop hits here either. Lose those bad hoppers. Borders jammed, and he pops it up to short center field. Gagne. And he has it one away. Brenly returning. That is Steve Shields, former Yankee, just called up by Minnesota on Thursday. And he is warming up as Tom Lawless comes up for the second time in a week to bat for Lloyd Moseby. Lawless doesn't get much reaction from the crowd here, but Minnesotans remember him very well. The 1987 World Series, when he hit a 3-run homer in Game 4 off Frank Viola, and responded with a bat toss a la Reggie Jackson. Lawless has hit about, I think he's hit 3 in his life, yeah. And he acted as if he had hit 700.
Well, hey, when you hit one in a World Series, when you're not even considered a home run hitter, you got to make the most out of it.
Well, Lawless drills a first pitch single here. He's actually hit 2 regular season home runs in his career and the World Series shot. And that has to be the epitome of frustration.
One thing about it is to take a look at Lloyd Moseby. You know he is frustrated. Not only is he frustrated, but the entire Blue Jay roster and ball club is frustrated.
Moseby, an all-star. And he's mired right now in one of those streaks and slumps that for him must seem terminal. Strike 1 to Liriano. Runners at first and second and 1 out here in the 7th.
Well, in 1987, it was Moseby, Barfield, and Bell, the 3 outfielders for the Blue Jays. There's Bell right there with over 100 home runs and over 300 RBIs in that year. They had the best outfield in all of baseball in '87. Moseby struggling now. Bell, they want the DH, and Barfield is gone.
Liriano drills this deep to right center field, and that's over Puckett's head, and on a bounce it's over the wall for a ground rule double. The ball is really carrying, as we mentioned earlier, because of the warm weather now in Minneapolis. The ball carrying well in the dome, and that was a shot off Liriano's bat.
Well, no chance for Puckett, and the ground rule double as it bounces over that 7-foot-high fence in center field. That is the lowest in the outfield. In right field is 23 feet out there, so it's hard with that curtain to get one of those ground rule doubles. Go ahead, Ted.
When they first opened this building, they didn't have that canvas in right field, and the game was a folly. Nothing but ground rule doubles.
Kelly has now made the signal to go to the bullpen. Raleigh will leave. He's done a good job for the Minnesota Twins this afternoon. Steve Shields will come on, and we'll be back right after these messages.
To prove how long Rain Dance car wax lasts, just add water. Rain Dance, the longest lasting protection you can buy.
You hear the thunder.
If you've been itching for driving excitement that's a blend of hot looks and high performance, then Grand Am is your car.
Feel excitement. Get on your Pontiac and ride. Pontiac ride. Get on your Pontiac. We build excitement.
Now get 2.9% GMAC financing or up to $1,600 cash back for first-time buyers.
Here's some news the Noid won't like. Domino's Pan Pizza. Oven fresh pan pizza delivered in 30 minutes or less. Guaranteed. Sorry, Noid. Call by Domino's Pan Pizza. Nobody delivers better.
Some guys make it look easy. They've got barbecue bag charcoal from Kingsford. Just light the bag for one barbecue's worth of premium Kingsford charcoal. Barbecue bag from Kingsford. What the pros use.
Here are some of the veterans you'll see at the ballpark this season. And some of our rookies. Now playing at a ballpark near you. Get up and go.
The preceding message was furnished by Major League Baseball.
Just called up is Steve Shields, the right-hander. And Shields coming over from the New York Yankees back in March when the Twins sent the Yankees Balvino Galvez. Raleigh just ran out of gas. He was on the bench so long with all those Minnesota Twin hits that never was able to recover.
Well, Ducey strokes a base hit on the first pitch from Shields. That'll score 1 run, and they hold up Liriano at third as Lawless scores. So now it's a 9-3 game. And the reason Tom Kelly making the pitching change is to avoid the Blue Jays from putting a big inning together that would give them some hope. But Ducey delivers an RBI single on the first pitch, and now the top of the order and Junior Felix. Watch his stance. Now, he's a switch hitter. When he bats left-handed, watch how he's going to open up in his stance. And I was talking with Cito Gaston, the batting coach of the Blue Jays, before the game about it. It's going to be a very difficult stance for this young man to continue with in the major leagues. Look at how open he is.
If you're open like that, you've got to turn the upper portion of your body in, so that at least you can square your shoulders up to hit the baseball. Otherwise, you'll be hitting open all the time. A la Tim McAuliffe. That's kind of like a Tim McAuliffe type of stance.
That's exactly what I remember.
With the Detroit Tigers.
Right? Second baseman, Dick McAuliffe.
But he would make that adjustment as the pitcher was delivering the ball towards home plate. He'd make that adjustment where he'd turn that upper portion of his body and square it up with the pitcher.
Ball 1 and ball 2 now from Shields. Gaston, the batting coach for the Jays, said that Felix picked this up in the minor leagues last year, and he doesn't yet want to fool around with it. He said, I want to let the kid bat the way he likes to. In time, I'll be trying to even off that stance. There's a strike from Shields, 2-1.
Steve Shields, he was at 39 ball games with the Yankees last year. He had a record of 5-5, but he said that when he went to spring training, he felt like they had a secure job.
That's it pretty well to right field, and Moses will have to play that off the curtain. 1 run will score. Into third base goes Ducey, and Felix at second with a double, and it's now 9-4. And that's going to get a little concern now going in the Twins dugout and get some more action in the Minnesota bullpen. The Jays have hit frozen ropes in this inning.
Yeah, excuse me, Ted. 23 innings. I mean, 23 hits already by both of these ball clubs. And coming into today's ball game, both these ball clubs struggling in the offensive department.
Germán Gonzalez, right-hander, now throwing in the Minnesota bullpen with Gruber at the plate. Runners at second and third. There's still only one out. Gruber taking ball one.
Steve Shields, after that trade,
with Gruber's hands and his grip, he's batting as Laudner keeps that ball in front of him. Gruber's batting with 3 fingers on one hand of his batting glove taped together. I've never seen that before. He's got sponge in between. The middle finger on that hand, you can see the tape on that left hand. The middle finger on that hand is injured. It's a ligament problem that Gruber says they really can't fix. So the only way he can bat is to tape those 3 fingers together with sponge. It's a great shot there of the sponge. I've never seen a player tape his batting glove fingers together.
Tell you what, with ligament damage in his finger there, it's going to be a big problem for him as far as batting is concerned, because you've got to have the feel of that bat with no pain in order to swing it the proper way.
What Gruber cannot do is completely close that finger and make a total fist. NBA final. The Bulls blow out the Knicks. Surprising the margin of victory there at the Chicago Stadium, and Michael Jordan just shy of a triple-double.
You can see why the Bulls beat the Knicks. Michael Jordan once again. Boy, is he something unbelievable.
It's amazing as how he only scored 15 points in game 2. That gets by Laudner. Here comes the runner to the plate, and he will score. Ducey in. Felix goes to third, and it's now 9-5. Steve Shields having a rocky time of it in his first Minnesota outing. And this is frustrating to the Twins because they've now left the Blue Jays back in this ball game.
Well, the Blue Jays are within a grand slam right now to tie this game up. Steve Shields, when he was recalled, he had an ankle injury at Portland, and his ankle is not 100% right now. That may be affecting him.
Making some good pitches to Gruber here. Gruber fouling them off to stay in there at 2-2.
Throws what you call a heavy ball, fastball that breaks down and in on the right-handed hitters, and he'll mix in a breaking ball.
Another chopper foul.
But Shields was really surprised when that trade was made in March. He felt like that he had won a job. He didn't have to worry about going to spring training to win a job for the Yankees. Covering 39 ball games for them in '88, a record of 5-5. He was really the workhorse out of that pen.
Gruber just staying alive, battling Shields. Shields showed up in Orlando when he came over from the trade to the Minnesota spring training camp with a dead arm. He just couldn't throw the ball. The Twins had no choice but to start him in the minor leagues and let him build that arm strength back. But they've had middle relief problems, Minnesota has, and they need him. And this is an inning has been a little example of that problem. They have a team down and they're not able to keep them there. As the Astros score a run in the 8th, Bob Knepper pitching the shutout. The Mets and Padres tied in the 7th. And the 3-run first inning continues to hold up for the Giants. Now finally it's put in play. Gaetti will have to go to first, and he just does get Gruber with the 5th run of the inning scoring. So Gruber gets the RBI, and it's now a 9-6 ball game, as the Jays have very quietly put up 5 runs here in the 7th.
Well, this is an outstanding play by Gary Gaetti, third baseman, with just a bang play. He has no other choice, but he did wait back for that hop, that good hop, and he made the strong throw off balance to first.
So the batter now is Fernandez. He's the 8th man to bat in this inning. Twins blew this game open with a 6-run 5th inning, but right now the 2 they added in the 6th are looking very important as the Jays have countered with 5 in the 7th. Foul down the left field line towards the Minnesota bullpen and out of play.
When you have a big lead like the Minnesota Twins had, you tend to relax a little bit. And it seems that the Twins have relaxed a little bit more than they wanted to. Raleigh, he just lost it all at one time, and they came out here in the 7th inning just banging him around. Now Steve Shields with that dead arm or not dead arm.
Fernandez hit a 7-iron there, and he hits it to Herbeck for the out. But the Blue Jays score 5 in the 7th to get back in this ball game. It's 9-6 Twins. And now here's another edition of State Farm Rules of the Game.
Rules of the Game brought to you by State Farm Insurance. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Hi, folks. Doug Harvey. Here's our situation for today. We've got less than 2 out. We've got runners in double play situations. We've got a line drive hit to an infielder who, in the opinion of the umpire, intentionally drops it trying to set up the double play.
And goes for 2.
Tell you how Doug Harvey rules on that in just a minute.
It seems like yesterday the Miller girls were in their strollers. Today things are changing. I'm State Farm Agent Dee Ray. After Shannon and Stephanie came along, the Millers needed our family insurance checkup. I showed them ways they could update their family coverage to cover their bigger family. Like every State Farm agent, I work with a family to help keep their insurance up to date. Keeping up with the girls, that's their job.
And like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Remember our situation, folks. Double play situation set up with less than 2 out. Line drive hit at an infielder. He intentionally drops the ball in order to set up the double play. As an umpire, throw up your hands. Call timeout, turn and call the batter out. Say nobody else can be retired. You're not going to give up that double play. It's Rule 605L. Now look that thing up.
That's today's edition of Rules of the Game, brought to you by State Farm Insurance. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
BMW 325IS, Mercedes 560 SL, outstanding. But compare them to Riata by Buick. Riata has more standard luxury features than BMW, for thousands less. And Riata's contemporary styling is less than half Mercedes price. In fact, Consumer's Digest calls Riata one of the best buys in domestic cars. Riata by Buick. The competition pales by comparison.
The great American road belongs to Buick.
Bottom of the 7th inning, and Dan Gladden hacks the first pitch from Tom Henke, and he fouls it off the right side. And Brentley at the new first baseman, Bob Brentley, does a nice job fighting off the roof and the seats and the Toronto bullpen, and he makes the catch for the out. There's Brentley taking over at first base here in the bottom of the 7th. Junior Felix has moved over to play center field. And the new right fielder is Tom Lawless, who has played the outfield a few times in his big league career.
But how many times in the Metrodome?
Oh, that's it. It's a tough baptism of fire. Gene Larkin takes strike 1 from Tom Henke. Henke is now in an interesting position. He's brought into what was a mop-up job, and now he's trying to keep his club in the game.
Yeah, but the other hand now, McGriff is out of the game. Mosby's out of the game. I'm sure that Jimmy Williams, thinking that this game was well out of hand, they get back in at the top of the 7th, and of course McGriff being one of the big guns and the guy that you look to hit a 3-run home run for you, he's not in the game anymore.
2-2 to Larkin. Henke has had 3 blown save opportunities this year. And the Toronto people say he's lost a little bit off the fastball that had made him such a premier reliever. Still got that good forkball that he's used to strike Gaetti out in the last inning. But now basically Dwayne Ward has almost taken over the role as the stopper for the Jays, the role that used to exclusively be Henke's. See, last year had a great year, only 4 blown saves all year.
That may have affected him, too, with Dwayne Ward coming in and sort of taking over. And he's thinking in the back of his mind, well, what in the world is going on? Look what I've done over the last couple of years. 34 saves and 25 last year. And now we've got somebody else.
Also, Gonzalez obviously going to come in and pitch for Minnesota. Look at that, Henke dropping down to Colby style. That's the first I've seen of that.
At this time, I think you'll do just about anything to break yourself out of the problems that he has. Gonzalez now sitting on the bench and probably will be in this game in the 8th.
Full count to Larkin.
I think he had a lot of good movement on his fastball to go along with that forkball. Both of those pitches really complemented each other so well.
Good discipline. Larkin probably the best discipline at the plate of any Twins hitter. And he works out his 16th walk this season, which leads the club. And brings Tim Laudner to the plate with 1 out. Laudner had a big double in the 6-run 5th inning for Minnesota. It was a 1-1 game until that 5th when the Twins scored 6. They added 2 in the 6th inning. And the Jays scored 5 in the 7th. The problems Toronto's had with the bullpen magnified last night when they lost a game in which they led 4-0. David Wells took the loss, the 13th loss already this year by a Toronto relief pitcher. It's mind-boggling. Their starting pitchers are 8 and 9 as a group. The relievers are 4 and 13.
From a manager's standpoint, you'd almost want to stick with your starters just a little bit longer, wouldn't you?
Strength versus strength. At 2-0, Laudner knew he was going to get a fastball. He usually kills good fastballs, but Henke blew that one by him, and it's 2-1. The first time in the game, a Toronto pitcher not paying much attention to the runner. Larkin is not a base stealer. And 2-2 the count. It has to be difficult, Bobby, for a pitcher like Henke to make this adjustment. He's been the guy who's been pitching in the gut-wrenching situations for years, and now he's in a ball game where he's close behind.
Well, I think that, like you said earlier, that Henke, he was just getting some work in.
That's chopped off the plate. Gruber will have to go to first. He does for the second out with Larkin advancing.
Right now, I think Jimmy Williams is just waiting for either Henke or Ward to come forward. Somebody that he can really rely on. And give Henke some work today. There's Jimmy Williams. He's going to do it his way no matter what. Been a lot of talk about Williams being moved out as the manager for the Blue Jays. Of course, Pat Gillett giving him a vote of confidence a couple of days ago. Sometimes that's not the best thing in the world can happen to you. He's just waiting for somebody in their bullpen to really come forward and take charge. The way Henke is throwing right now, it almost appears that he's got something wrong with him. I mean, he is not throwing like we have known him to throw in 1988. He's not popping the fastball. You would speculate that maybe he's got some soreness in his arm or shoulder.
1-1 now to Gagne, who has 2 hits and 2 RBIs in the ball game. This is a guy that the Twins really could foresee as a number 2 hitter in their lineup if he made more consistent contact. He has good speed, good power. For a shortstop, is a good bunter, but he struck out over 100 times last year. A little bit like Robbie Thompson, the second baseman for the Giants, another guy in the same boat. If he didn't strike out as often, would bat higher in the order. Yeah, swing on first base, says Greg Kosk, And it's 1-2.
That was a kind of fastball that Henke had in '88, where he would run that ball back on the outside corner for a strike, with the movement running back towards the strike zone.
Now 2-2 with 2 down here in the bottom of the 7th. A 9-6 Minnesota lead. Drop for a hit. Larkin coming to the plate, and he will score. So Gagne hanging in there, delivers a broken bat single, his 3rd hit and his 3rd RBI of the game, and it's now 10-6 Minnesota.
And that's the fastball we were talking about. That was a nothing fastball. Gagne able to just get some wood on it and muscle it over the infield's head. The Henke fastball in '87 and '88 would have just broken that bat in half, and possibly Gagne would have missed it.
Now Newman, the batter. And Newman's had a good day, scored 3 runs. The scouts, the advanced scouts that we talked about earlier, they travel around, and you'll see them often at ballparks behind home plate shooting the radar guns at the pitchers, and they're the ones that start spreading the word about a pitcher like a Henke. Many are saying the same thing now about Jeff Reardon of Minnesota, that they're clocking him at 3 or 4 miles an hour less on the fastball than they were used to.
Boy, that is a big difference, too. When you take a half an inch or an inch off of a fastball, but everybody that goes to the plate is geared for that fastball, that's the difference in either missing it or fouling it back out of play.
Pitch out. All of the mechanics that we've seen dealing with the Blue Jays throwing to first base come from the bench, and that's something they've talked about. May not be the best thing for Pat Borders, the young catcher. A lot of pitches and pitch out calls and the throws to first are all coming in from their dugout. Remember, we were in Chicago a month ago for a game, and Jeff Torborg was talking, an old catcher, talking about how he's letting his young catcher, Marullo, call his own game in Chicago.
Every manager wants their catcher to look into the dugout just in case they spot something or pick up a sign. Take a look at Borders. You can see him looking into the Blue Jay dugout. Just give me a look. That's all I ask of you. I'm not going to call the game for you, but I may pick up something so that I can relay it to you.
Strike to Newman. It's 1 ball and 1 strike.
I think Alvin Dark was the last manager that I remember that called every pitch. There's Jimmy Williams. He's flashing some signs.
I guess the one we remember recently was the 1984 Tigers, when Roger Craig was the pitching coach with Sparky Anderson. I believe they were calling pitches, not the entire game, but
certain situations.
Right. 1-1. That's inside. 2-1. Henke there giving his catcher, his team, there's the signal from Williams, a chance to throw a runner out. He's using that slide step on the delivery to home plate, not really lifting the front leg very much.
I think Gagne was going then. He was leaning just a little bit towards second.
2-1 with 2 out. Newman is the leadoff man in the order. If Gagne were to be thrown out, Newman would lead off the 8th.
Well, it's a real guessing game, and it changes every pitch, every throw over to first base. You can see Williams, and he's flashing signs each time that Borders looks over.
And Newman slaps a foul. 2-2 the count. One negative to a team like the Blue Jays throwing as often as they do to first base, as we've seen last night and in this game today. The other older guys in the field tend to get back on the heels a little bit, and they don't quite have the sharpness because the innings don't go as quickly. There goes the runner, and Newman just puts his bat on the ball and gets it back to Henke to end the inning. But Minnesota gets 1 run in the bottom of the 7th, and they lead by 4 after 7.
You hear the thunder.
You can see it in the way it looks. You can feel it in the way it drives. This is America's premier sports coupe, Grand Prix. Now get 2.9% GMAC financing or up to $1,600 cash back for first-time buyers.
GM makes the dream. GMAC makes the dream yours. With either financing or smart lease, custom tailored to fit your budget. Right at your GM dealers.
The dreams of America. GMAC.
The moment. There are those our lives endure, and those our hearts endear. So whether it's the moment you need cash, or a moment meant to share, you can count on MasterCard in nearly 3 times the number of places as American Express. Wherever you happen to be, wherever the moment may find you, MasterCard, master the moment.
Quaker State engines don't know when to quit.
Mine's pushing 250,000 miles. Quaker State exceeds every single car maker's U.S. requirements for maximum engine protection.
The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
Hit the road, Jack, and if you don't like them, we'll buy them back.
Road Handler Treadlocks. Test them for 1,000 miles. If you don't agree they're the toughest tires you've owned, Sears will buy them back.
Hit the road, Jack.
Road Handler Treadlocks at Sears. Tough tires you can trust.
What you say?
Well, the young rookie right-hander Herman Gonzalez will now come on to pitch for the Minnesota Twins. Steve Shields out of there. And the Blue Jays coming back in the 7th inning. But Gonzalez with a record of 3-1 and a nice earned run average. He'll try to shut him down here in the 8th inning.
At Wrigley Field, the Astros win by a score of 1-0. Bob Nepper, who's been struggling this year, is the winning pitcher. Dave Smith gets the save. Greg Maddux the loser. Each club with just 3 hits. The Astros winning 1-0. Don't forget, this is just the first game of a doubleheader here on NBC. Many of you will see the Yankees and the Angels after this game. Some of you to see the Brewers and the Athletics. And a strike to George Bell.
Nothing really tricky about Gonzalez. Fastball, slider, but his fastball moves all over the place.
What's tricky about him, Bobby, and you watch this, Gonzalez throws from the first base side of the rubber. And he falls off the first base side, so the right-handed batters actually get a great look at him. Maybe a better look at him than a left-hander does.
See the movement on the fastball. That ball really dove down and in on George Bell. And Bell, as he switches that weight back to the backside, he would way back or way out on his front foot. He's normally a low ball hitter too. Whoops.
There he goes. The deception of Gonzalez creating some problems for Bell, as you see Todd Stottlemyre. His dad was a teammate of yours.
Mel Stottlemyre, back in the 60s and early 70s. I knew that youngster when he was just a little pup, when those young kids used to run around Yankee Stadium, 6 or 7 or 8 years old. I'm not dating myself, am I?
Yeah, you are. Could you tell that he had a great arm when he was that age?
couldn't tell on Todd. I could tell on his old man. He had basically the same type of pitchers, too, Todd and Mel. Of course, Mel now the pitching coach for the New York Mets.
Bob Brenly at a ball and a strike.
I'll never forget Mel was pitching at Shea Stadium when the Yankees were playing at Shea Stadium while Yankee Stadium was being refurbished, and he threw a pitch one night. I think it was about the 5th inning. I'm playing right field. He threw one pitch and he grabbed his shoulder, walked off the mound. That was the end of his career.
Rotator cuff.
Rotator,
right?
Tore the rotator cuff.
Before we knew what that injury was.
Yeah.
Brenly taking, and it's now 3-1. 4-run Minnesota lead here in the 8th inning, and so key for Gonzalez to throw strikes. Brenly pops that up, and that may be playable. The catcher Laudner. They're 2 down. So Brenly is retired, and now Ernie Witt will be the pinch hitter, and he will bat for Pat Borders. The veteran, the last original Blue Jay, and now a noted author of a book that is not...
Don't ask the umpires about that, though.
Not been all that well received
No.
by the umpires in the league, or actually by his own teammates.
He has claimed in his book that some of the umpires have taken advantage of the Blue Jays, or they don't give the Blue Jays any breaks, or whenever they umpire, that they take it and put it to the Blue Jays. That brought a little controversy around baseball.
Some of his teammates feeling that that book may have been better served to be written at the end of his playing career than while he's still active. Hard to argue with that logic. Witt, a dead pull hitter, and the Twins are shifting in the infield. 3 infielders on the right side.
I think it really depends on how many books you want to sell. He can get a lot more publicity playing and publishing a book at the same time.
Dave Winfield tried that, right?
Yep. He sold a lot of books, too.
1-2 now to Witt. The Jays are extremely high on Pat Borders. They think that Pat Borders will be a star catcher down the road. Pat Gillick says all he needs is playing time. The problem is that Witt keeps hitting. He's hitting .274 this year, and as long as Witt is going to hit right-handed pitching.
They've got 2 professional hitters on their bench, the other one being Mullinex and Ernie Witt. Those 2 guys are really professional guys coming off the bench. You don't like to see them coming to the plate with the game on the line.
And there's that dead pull hitter, and he rips one into the right field corner. Witt will get 2 bases out of this as Moses hustles the ball back in. So a pinch double by Ernie Witt. Again, a reminder, this is just the first half of your doubleheader on Saturday. Most of you will see Don Mattingly and the Yankees. Tommy John pitches against the Angels in Anaheim today. Some of you to see the Brewers and the Athletics, who are once again tearing up the American League West. That's coming up next, the second game of our doubleheader on NBC Sports. The Athletics winning another dramatic game last night as Dave Henderson hit a 2-run 9th inning homer to beat the Brewers 5-4. And now Rance Mullinex is coming out to bat for Tom Lawless, who had just come into the game in the 7th inning. Mullinex, 300 years in the last 5, but this year off to just a 202 start.